Howdy. It's time for another talk. Time for another hot talk by the fire. Yes, I know it's like May 3rd, and I don't know, it got all cloudy, it rained yesterday, and it got a little cold, so I had to get a little fire going yesterday, keeping it going today. We're going to have a talk about shadow work. And I'll just briefly, give you a little hey, here's what shadow work is. Shadow work is basically introspection, inner reflection on your life and where you went wrong. And you choosing to look yourself in the mirror and be totally honest to yourself about everything. You're not trying to paint any picture. You are not trying to make yourself feel good. You're not trying to make yourself feel bad. But I think it kind of naturally happens when you do the shadow work because you realize your potential. You realize the potential of everybody around you and how we're all just throwing it in the garbage. We're all just burning our potential all the time and doing evil, wicked crap here in this realm. So it's one of those topics that you're never going to hear on the television. You're definitely going to hear shadow work and come get some therapy and take some mushrooms to think this way, or you're going to get all this new age crap about shadow work. But what it really is you alone facing your own self, facing your own demons that you've created, and acknowledging the angels you've created. Which, here's a quick aside, I really think when we talk about angels, we're talking about angles. All the different angles, all the different perspectives you can have on something. That's why you have all these different angels that have all these different abilities and powers, and it's just angles of a perspective. So when we talk about shadow work, it's not all negative. For me, I have individually found principles and found important things in my life, and I've stood on them, and I've grasped them, and I will never let go. Like the truth. It's just truth, morality, peace. Very simple concepts that I learned as a child that they tried to take away from me, and shove the chaos and the control and the lies and the deception in me, In my shadow work, I've discovered at least I held on to the basic truth, the basic humanity, the reverence, the sovereignty, which I talk of, So when you do shadow work, it's not all a bad thing. You really start to see who you are and what you've been doing here. But then the flip side is there's a lot of bad stuff you have probably picked up on, a lot of bad habits, a lot of bad ideas that you have accepted into your life. So shadow work, it's like personal therapy, but it's hardcore, and it's about being brutally honest with yourself, okay? And I'm just a hard truth guy. I give it hard to myself, and it's helped me grow and challenge myself. That's why I make these videos, because I want to give you some hard truths to chew on. Something that'll actually feed you, something that'll actually get you passionate about this life and this realm and the future. And how we could have the most wonderful, amazing future if we all do this shadow work, we all do our part here. So I want to start it off with a clip from Red Bar. Wonder if you've ever heard of this guy, Red Bar. He kind of makes fun of podcasters. He's a pretty hilarious dude on the internet. But I just stumbled onto one of his clips, an old clip, from like 2018 or something the other day. But he talks about a very simple concept on how you just need to be able to change. You got to realize that the truth changes based off of the information, and how you can be wrong today. Or no, you can be right today and wrong tomorrow because everything has changed. And you need to change with it and realize these things. So I'll play that clip.
Let's talk about looks. Okay, because this is important. Let's talk about how we dress, how we look. And there's a couple reasons I want to do that. I believe the way you dress, what music you listen to, the way you think, almost everything in life should be an evolutionary process. You should constantly be interested in newer things. This is why I do the new music show, okay? It's to force Red Bar listeners, because they're never going to hear these songs otherwise. It doesn't matter if these songs are good. It's about keeping up to date and riding the wave of evolving all the way up. And this is the purpose of life, I believe, is to constantly be applying the newest ideas of our time today. So there's no such thing as being right. There's only such thing as being right today based on the information you have. Graham Hancock. You know what? I say some of these things and then I'll watch a speaker and they say everything that I'm saying in different words. And I go, did I hear this while I was asleep? And it's like in my subconscious and I'm just repeating it. Or am I saying the same thing as scholars?
You're a scholar.
I think I could be. Listen, I believe, this is what I believe. I believe that there is no such thing as being right. There is only such thing as being right based on the information you have in front of you today. And that information, if it changes tomorrow, you're wrong. And then you got to be right tomorrow. So back to clothes. The clothes you picked out in 2006 mean nothing today. And we see this all the time. You see a guy and it's like he established his look in 2005, and then any variance on that look is wrong in his opinion. Anything new, anything changed is wrong, but it's like your look, bro, was wrong to the people 5 years before you. Like take any listener we have, Danny Woodward, anyone. The way they dress today was whack 20 years ago. It looked crazy. So why is it right now? It's like, so I preach this message and I try to encourage people on this message. It's like, just because something was right on a certain day of your life doesn't mean it's right forever. So I take it like how you dress. Like Russell Brand decided he was going to be this like Chris Angel rocker guy, but he decided that in 1997. And he won't upgrade his look because he thinks he was right then. You were good for the times, bro, but times have changed. You need to constantly be evolving as that clock ticks and moving with it. You need to ride that surf, bro. But they don't. Everyone assumes, like, when they came to a conclusion, that conclusion must be finalized and you must stick to it. And then they'll even mock you if you vary from what you used to be.
That Red Bar clip just reminds me of being a mentat. Like in Dune, being a mentat. You know, somebody who uses his mind to see the patterns of the past, the patterns of the future, and to study these changes and be aware of them as they come. Okay, you don't want to be clueless when the change comes. If you're paying attention to things around you, to people around you, it's obvious the change is coming. You know, the new information is available for you every day. And that's the beautiful thing about this internet that we share. While it has enslaved most people through entertainment, there's a small minority like me who, man, every day I could get on the internet and I discover something so profound that can change my life, some knowledge, some piece of wisdom that I can take and take with me for the rest of my life. You know, it's more than entertainment for me. Like, I have the library of everybody's consciousnesses available. And I could look at the stupid consciousnesses and, yeah, I can understand why they do that. And then I can go to the people like Mark Passio, who I look at as one of the most intelligent people in this realm at the moment. And the most passionate, probably. I find it so funny. The guy's name is Mark Passio, and he's so passionate. And every time I listen to him, he raises that passion in me. And that's why I want to raise the passion in humanity, because it just seems like a dead whale right now, like a big flopped over dead thing. And it's like, man, this is like the lowest potential humanity could ever reach. Enslaving itself with technology. It's pretty fucking bad. It's pretty stupid. Real brain rotted. But I brought up Mark Passio because last week he released his shadow work seminar. It's a full 8-hour long video, I guess, for, you know, he last year, I think in November, he had a webinar that you could pay for to watch this shadow work video, but now it's out on the internet for free. So I've gotten maybe halfway through it, and I'm just telling you, this shadow work video by Mark Passio, it should be shown to everybody around the world. It's one of the most important things people should think about right now, is their inner work and how it's affecting everybody around them. But I'll play a clip from that just to give you a little taste. Hopefully you'll go in the description and watch the whole thing for the betterment of yourself.
Self-improvement often means outgrowing your peer group. This is another reason people don't want to engage in and conduct shadow work, is because they know at an intuitive level that their friends are just going to melt away, because it could be a lonely life path. To truly improve oneself often means that others will perceive the ways that you have changed, yet not understand them, because they have not undergone such life changes themselves. So they'll see that you've changed, not understand how you've changed and how it's for the better. They haven't done any of that work, and so they'll be in a state of, oh, they're not how they used to be. They're not fun like they used to be, and they'll mock and ridicule and deride. But really, you've left them in the dust and become much better than they are as a being. This can lead to the experience of being socially ostracized by one's former peer group, which can be very emotionally traumatizing. This is one of the main reasons that people fear shadow work so much and are often very hesitant to begin the journey to self-improvement, because they're too worried about what other people think of them, their peer group. Guess what, folks? People like that were never your friends to begin with. Hate to burst your bubble or break the news to you, but they were never your friends. They were never your family members. They were never people who cared about you. All they were people that happened to be around you physically, and they're not very good people. And you should leave people like that in the dust and move on to other peers and people that you could consider your real family. Because people who act like that, they're not your friends and they're not your family. They're bad people who don't really care about self-improvement or the human condition. And I'll say it like that. I'll say it right to people like that. Here's one of the big lessons that people don't want to learn because it's so painful and traumatizing when it comes to their parents or their teachers or their clergy or whatever. Parents and teachers and other types of influencers often teach us to completely miss the target. They teach us don't hit the bullseye, miss, because we're sad, incompetent people, and we miss all the time, and we want to teach you to miss because we don't want to look at you as an example who's way up here while we remain way down here. And you know what that is? That's trashiness. That means that the person's not really good. They're trashy. They're basically a piece of scum. And we shouldn't put people like that up on a pedestal. We shouldn't glorify them. We shouldn't say, oh, they did the best they could. No, they didn't. They didn't do the best they could. Never did, never tried to do the best they could, not once, generally. Okay? I'm not saying there's no exceptions to that, but in general, it's true. Most people's parents taught us to miss the mark. Their teachers, their clergy, their family members, their friends, they want them remaining down in mediocrity where they're at, because once they elevate their consciousness and their behavior up here, it makes them feel like shit even more about themselves, and they're already kind of pretty big pieces of shit. Shadow work can lead us to the painful truth that the people who we most believe were here to help us, like parents and teachers, were the very people who have been teaching us to miss the target, not to self-actualize and reach our true and highest potential the entire time. This can be one of the most traumatizing and painful aspects of all within the work of self-improvement. Let me tell you, it's not fun. It's painful, okay? It is not pleasant. When you realize the people that you thought were there, who loved you and who were there to help you the whole time, were basically holding you back or setting bad examples for you to follow, that's very traumatizing. And you have to work through that in the shadow work process, which is why I'm bringing it up as a concept to understand before even going in to the methods and practice. This is one of the most necessary dynamics to face when we explore the reasons for our current situation and our current conditions. So stop making excuses for bad parenting and bad peer advice of any kind, whether it comes from parents, teachers, clergy, friends, family members, co-workers, whatever. We have to stop making excuses for others and how they have contributed to holding our spiritual and psychological work back. They're acting as tethers, they're acting as chains, they're acting as weights. One of the very worst things that we can ever do when approaching shadow work is to start making endless excuses for bad advice and bad influence that has been given to us by people in our lives who we love or respect. And you could still love or respect those people, that's your choice, but stop making excuses for the incorrect influence and bad influence that they've conducted upon you and others. And this is done by people we claim to love and respect, like parents, friends, peers, teachers, clergy, etc. We need to deeply understand that those people may have given us advice and information from their level of awareness. But that does not mean that that advice was true or even good in any way. It could have been completely false, misleading, sending us down a bad pathway in life. So you don't make excuses and say, oh, they did the best they could. They gave information from their current level of awareness, and their current level of awareness is way down here. It's not up here. It's not good quality of information. It doesn't mean you have to start hating them or want to go stab them or something. It's just you can't put them up on a pedestal and say, oh, they're so good because they did the best they could and they were just my family or friends or clergy or whatever. You got to call a spade, ladies and gentlemen. You got to say, they didn't do right by me. This was bad advice. This was bad influence. These people didn't do their best. They failed miserably, often at the one and only job they had ever in life. And that doesn't mean you can't still care about them. But you gotta call it what it is. You can't lie about it and you can't make excuses about it, or you're not going to make it very far in healing through shadow work. We must see this condition, these dynamics, for what they are, and not just place people up on a pedestal just because they were the people who were around us earlier in our lives. That's a very painful lesson. Get as offended as you like. It's still true. What's up there is still the case. It's still objectively true. You can feel about it however the fuck you want. It's never going to make it untrue. And you could keep denying it, and all that's going to do is act as a further noose around your neck. It's going to act as a further leash. So you want to stay where you're at? You don't really want to improve? Keep believing that these people had your best interest in mind when they were the ones who were influencing you in the worst ways imaginable. One of the things you cannot do, no matter how bad the outlook looks in shadow work, is dwell in shame.
So this is a hard talk, right? I said in the beginning, I'm talking about hard truths. This is one of those difficult realities. It's a difficult truth to realize. Your friends and your family, they don't want to do the shadow work. They don't want to grow in consciousness. They like to stay in their mediocrity. They like to stay small, is another way to put it. You know, they like to think they have it all figured out, right? It's a big part of when you're a child and you're growing up. You kind of expect that, oh, my parents have everything figured out and they're going to tell me the truth and they're going to guide me, you know, in a very wise way. You think about the teachers at your school when you're a child, you're like, wow, I don't know anything. And they're really, you know, they've been here a lot longer than me and they're guiding me in the correct ways, right? Wrong. Like most of your parents, most of your teachers, and there's always exceptions. There's always exceptions to what I say. Okay, I sometimes I just paint a general broad brush, but it's something that I've lived through and that I can see happening in other people's families and other people's lives. So I'm just bringing this up because I think it needs to be talked about. It needs to be said. And it does not mean that you hate anybody or you look down on anybody or that you're better than anybody. It's just a realization that some people will hold you back in life with their love. Okay? And that's why you kind of need to realize love is not the highest thing. You know, if I was to really think of the highest principle, authenticity, sovereignty, being real, being authentic, right? There's a lot of people faking love. There's a lot of fake stuff going on around. I love pizza. It's like, dude, just using that people use love in just the stupidest ways. And I just think for a lot of families and a lot of parents and child relationships, it's not actually about sovereignty and wisdom and growth. It's more about an objectification, right? Like the parent is like, I had you. So that means I created you. And it gives the parent this huge ego trip about, you know, making them think that they're like the arbiters of your reality because you came out of your mom, you know, and you had to have your mom and your dad, right? So it's this weird, and it all goes back to Saturn cult, you know, the older generation eating the younger generation. It's just the way it is right now, and it's the way people have accepted to live, and it's all because of this state of desperation and how people just don't do shadow work. They're afraid of the truth, so it's built this gigantic wall of the truth is bad, the truth is scary, the truth is too negative. God, if I could express to you how many times I've heard people just say, you're too negative. You know, I couldn't think about these things. It would hurt me because it's negative. It's like, how do you fix a problem? By ignoring it. It's just like, it's very simple to me. It's like I got a leak in my plumbing line and it's like, the water's flowing, it's flooding. I gotta go stop the leak or it's gonna get worse. And then there's these people that are like, oh God, if you talk about that, that's bad. Bad things happen when leaks and pipes happen, so we can't even think about that or talk about it. And then the whole house rots from underneath because you never address the problem, and then you just start to make up ideas that, like, oh, houses just naturally rot now. Like, I hope you're kind of picking up on this strange metaphor I've made, but we live in a time where people excuse evil and normalize it. They normalize ignorance. And it's just undeniable to witness. Well, I hope you're here for the hard truths in life. Because I'm not giving you a soft one today. I'm giving you one of the hardest lessons you could ever go through. For me, I already went through this lesson a while ago. I had kind of realized this all on my own. But I was not public about it. I just kind of did what I did, moved on in life. And just because, I want to be authentic, I want to be honest, I'm going to just share my experience of this thing that I had to do. Because I was getting into shadow work before I even knew it was a thing. All I knew in my life is I need to change, and I don't see people around me willing to change or wanting to change. And I've probably mentioned it in previous videos, but before I left Missouri, where I used to live, I was a big conspiracy guy. I was just bringing up every crazy conspiracy to everybody around me, and everybody's just calling me crazy and really not wanting to hear it, okay? Kind of laughing it off. That's kind of what I get, is a lot of just laughs. When I would try to bring up a deep thing that was important to me, to my friends or my family, it was just kind of like brushed off to the side, like, man, that Jim, he's on something. Like, that's just him. So, and I know I'm not alone. I know so many of us have tried our best to wake up, right, in quotes, like wake up, snap our families and our friends out of deep delusions, and just the idea of like, hey, we need to change and we need to think differently and grow. Yeah, I just had this feeling that it wasn't in them. It was not in my friends or my family, so I need to go off alone to do this thing. And so that's why part of why I moved to New Hampshire was I needed that new setting. I needed a new change. But most of all, I needed a blank slate so I could study reality. And you don't know what that is when you're with your friends and family that have been with you your entire life. And everybody's situation is unique and different, and I love my friends and family. I talk to them, I cherish them, but I had to leave them behind in this journey, this pursuit of truth that I'm on. I just think it needs to be said. It's not and you could also, if you flip all of that, and look at my friends and my family's lives, they chose to pursue happiness and family and building their own families, right? They chose a different path than me, and I respect that. That's what they wanted to do. They didn't want to study conspiracy. They didn't want to look into all this stuff. It's just not, I get it. I understand. I get it now. Okay, back then, I did not get it because all I knew was I need more truth. I don't have it. Now I'm in more of a stable situation where I get it. I have a deep amount of truth that most people just will never go near. And I can realize why it's scary for them. But see, I'm not a person that lives in fear, so it really is, it's hard for me to really conceptualize, what other people are going through. In order to do shadow work, you must be autodidactic. You must self-learn, okay? You must engage your own learning capabilities. You must be the entire thing, okay? All I can do is kind of push you into shadow work, and then it's a total personal experience that you must go through. There is no guidebook on shadow work because it's individual to everybody's life and their past, their present situation. It's all tied into the individual. So there is no easy guidebook for it. You're the guidebook, you're the compass. You have to do it all. You got to figure out where you fucked up. And it's just, I just feel like all these talks I have, all these ideas, they all go back to self-sufficiency, sovereignty, and how people have simply just handed that off to somebody else. Handed that off to a expert or a god, right? Some fantasy that came out of a book. You handed your entire essence of figuring things out, your authority. You gave your authority to fantasy stories. You gave your authority to criminals here, right? Experts that get paid the moon money. People in suits. Like, goddamn, if you're trusting what a man wearing a suit has to say, I'm trying to think of like anybody wearing a suit that is really like worth listening to at this point. I literally cannot think of a single useful, unless you want to make money, right? Unless you're some stupid money moon worshiper. And that's the thing about this shadow work, is it's like the opposite of what money does here. Money's corrupting people, money's destroying things. But when you talk about the shadow work and correcting your wrongs and going forward in life, doing the right thing, whereas you might have been doing the wrong thing for a couple decades, just imagine the wealth that brings you and the people around you to be able to change and to do the right thing from here on out. And you got to realize you needed that 20 years. You needed that past of messing up, screwing up, to know what it's like. It's not that you're always a screw up. You're always dumb. It's like, it's the way the human experience goes. Is it's ups and downs and all arounds. Okay, you've got to crawl before you can walk. But you can't crawl your entire existence and make excuses and say crawling is the new thing. We all just need to crawl all the time. I don't see many people standing up in this age. I see a lot of just crawling crybabies asking for somebody else to save them, when it's obvious they're the ones damning themselves with these stupid ideas. And I could go on and on and on and on and on and on with this one, because I've been doing shadow work for over 10 years. When I'm 38 now. Oh God, yeah, I've been doing shadow work for like 15 years or something. And it's all these different, like, I just had to question myself, okay? I had to question everything, all my motives, why am I here, what am I doing, It's not all about pleasure. And for me, I kind of got mixed up in like guilt and shame, because I like some pleasurable things here. It's just, you can really trap yourself in bad patterns when you guilt and shame yourself. So don't do that with this shadow work. The shadow work is not about guilt and shame. That's what these religions are about. You know, that's what humanity has become, a big guilt shame trip, you know. And that's one point Mark Passio brings up is when you change, the people around you, you're not the same person you used to be. And there's this weird loyalty to your old self that we have. That, I mean, even our old habits, we feel some loyalty that I won't be the person I am if I give up my old habits, or if I change, I won't be loyal. But it's a natural growth of a human. It's natural to change and to let go of things and to move on to new things. And, you know, I'll close it with this. Like, you're surrounded by weakness, okay? You are surrounded by the dead and the dispassionate, okay? You're surrounded by people that they are, like Mark Passio said, like they're on this low level, okay? And they don't, the last thing they would want is to see you on this high level. Because if you're on this high level, being a great person, doing great things, how would that make all of them feel? How would all these people feel that you grew up around, that raised you, right? That told you all the bad advice, told you to do all the wrong things, told you to go follow the government, follow God, right? Be afraid of God, fear this, you know, go to the doctor, go get money, go pay your, in my life, I have been given all the bad advice, okay, that you could ever be given. And I've rejected it. And I've just said, oh, what, you're all crazy. You're all nuts. I just knew there's something deeply, deeply wrong with this society and these people. And it is what it is. You got to face it. You have to realize that's what is going on here, is a dead, stagnant, dispassionate, creative force. Okay, that we could all be creative, we could all be sovereign, but people willingly choose slavery and not to be great. And then they go do stupid things. They go get drunk at the bar, and they just keep proving why they're not great. You know, it's a cycle. It's worse. It's a tough talk. And that's why I just think like 10 people will listen like normal. But in my life, the shadow work has been one of the most important things I've ever done. And it's a continued process throughout your life of really reviewing what you're doing, what you've done, and what needs to go, what needs to stay. It's a deep thing that only you have the power to do. You know, is your life sacred? Is anything sacred anymore? Or can you just be sold off into slavery? Can you just be sold an idea? Or can you stand firm and stand in the present moment, and you have your own ideas, your own thoughts, but at least they're your own. And if in the next day you find new information that forces that to change, you better change. It's just the idea there are no absolutes in this kind of realm because of time. Time allows for a new thing to unveil itself. Time allows for what we thought was true in the past to not be true anymore. Okay? It's this change that happens in this realm that makes it to where there can't really be absolutes. There really just can't. You have to go with the flow. You've got to be able to row your boat the other way sometimes. Like the current is dragging you down the cliff, you know, all the people, the society, all the culture is rotten, and they're all just, they're all just flying down the cliff. You got to get in your boat, speed it up, and go the other way. It's just the way it goes here. It's not that you're saying you're better than anybody. It's not that you're just got to do it. And when you better yourself, you better everybody around you. Doesn't matter if they want to accept that or not. But when you raise the standard of your life, the standard of what you will accept, it raises everything around you year by year, piece by piece. There's never an instant thing here. With these kind of changes I'm talking about, these deep inner changes, it's like a flower starting to bud, and then it buds and grows and gets bigger. It takes time and effort and passion. So I think I've rambled on enough. Get going with the shadow work if you haven't already been doing it. I love you. Enjoy.